I like the music. Yeah. It's like Wild West.
At 7 locations, including an elementary school. The gunman killing 4 people. It happened in Northern California's Tehama County. Officials just releasing new information. They say the gunman tried to make his way into an elementary school with a semi-automatic rifle.
This is a point I forgot. This comes from California shooting. A gunman killed 4 people and injured 2 children. Police say. Okay, that comes from the police.
Just think about that for one moment. Remember Newtown. Tonight, the assistant sheriff saying that thanks to the staff at that school, the shooter was not able to enter the halls. Dan Simon is out front live in Corning, California. And Dan,
live.
Unbelievable what happened here. What are officials saying went down here at the school?
Well, Aaron, first of all, this apparently began as some kind of neighborhood dispute and then evolved into something far more dangerous and far more sinister. Apparently, after an initial burst.
Dan, unbelievable what happened here.
It's not roped off, it's taped off. It's a crime scene.
Went down here at the school.
Oh, Peggy, now look at this. Hey, manifestation. Hey. Woo!
Well, Aaron, first of all, this apparently began as some kind of neighborhood dispute and then evolved into something far more dangerous and far more sinister. Apparently, after an initial burst of gunfire, the shooter then...
So what are these buggers looking at? They're just picking and posing. I mean, did you walk around like that? Looking at the guy.
Took a truck. He stole a truck and then began randomly shooting into people's homes. And then at a certain point, he crashed that truck and then carjacked a sedan. And then as he was driving towards that school, he started shooting randomly at cars. And he actually hit a young mother who was driving her children to that school. That mother apparently is at the hospital fighting for her life. Her son was also injured. He apparently is expected to be okay. And then once Aaron, he arrives at that school, just a burst of gunfire. He goes onto the school grounds, fires apparently 30 rounds.
Look at that. Molly, get out of that picking bin. Look at this here. Hey?
According to the sheriff, I want you to listen now what happened next.
The shooter literally took his vehicle and rammed their fence and gate. Entered the grounds on foot with a semi-automatic rifle that had multi-round clip. He was wearing a load-bearing vest that you sometimes see soldiers wear that have the clips embedded in the chest. It appears that because he couldn't make access to any of the rooms, that they were locked, that he gave it up and re-entered the vehicle and then went on his killing spree.
Oh, so he buggered off. As soon as the old fart was couldn't get into the building because it's on lockdown, even though he could have blasted the doors away and the windows away. This lockdown was the equivalent of a shield. Boom, boom, boom. So, the staff somewhere pressed a button and a deflector shield came down. Now on lockdown, you can't come in, you can't shoot the windows out, you can't shoot the locks off the doors, you can't kick the doors in, you can do bugger all. You can't get past this shield. Okay? Manufactured by who? Oh, for fuck. Who? Manufactured by Judy Wood Industries. Oh, good gracious.
And took it to the streets of Rancho Tehama.
Eh?
The sheriff reiterating several times that because the school went under lockdown, several lives, many lives, Aaron, were likely saved because the shooter apparently did not have access to some of those classrooms, got frustrated, and then simply left. A short distance away, he was caught up by deputies. They engaged in a gunfight, and the shooter was shot dead. Aaron?
And Simon, thank you very much. Horrific what happened and miraculous.
Perfect
If you
what
think about
happened.
what could have happened in that school.
Exactly. Perfect what happened. Perfect story.
Northern California, where we've gotten varying reports, but here's what we now believe.
Okay.
A sheriff says a gunman killed at least 4 people near an elementary school and injured children before officers shot and killed the attacker. Investigators say that the school is in Rancho Tehama Reserve, about 2 hours north of Sacramento. A man tells the Record Searchlight newspaper that his roommate is one of the victims and that their neighbor is the killer. The man says he and his roommate had told the police that their neighbor was acting erratically and threatening them, and that he had been shooting hundreds of rounds of from large magazines. Trace Gallagher with the rest of it from our West Coast.
Now, just a second. If that roommate had said, well, okay, he's been doing all this, and he reported to the police would have arrested him because the fellow was a ex-prisoner. They're not allowed to have weapons, so he would have been arrested. So that's a pig in lie.
News Hub. Trace?
Well, the
Hey,
whole
Chef,
story
Rancho
is.
Tehama is a town of about 3,500 right off Interstate 5 as you go toward Redding. Police say at 8 o'clock local time, the unidentified suspect apparently stole a truck, was armed with 2 handguns and a rifle, and then started driving around and randomly shooting. There are now 7 crime scenes, meaning those are the places along the way that victims were shot and in some cases killed. It is unclear if the gunman was targeting Rancho Tehama Elementary School, but that is where he ended up, though he was never inside the school building or on the property. Witnesses saw
Oh, on the property. Well, the sheriff said he was on the pigging property and couldn't get in.
a classroom window blown out, and that's apparently...
Sorry, just go back one. The sheriff said that he couldn't get in and he buggered off. Because the shield was down, the lockdown. Okay?
shot and in some cases killed. It is unclear if the gunman was targeting Rancho Tehama Elementary School, but that is where he ended up, though he was never inside the school building or on the property. Witnesses saw a classroom window blown out, and that's apparently where 2 children inside the room were shot and wounded. One boy was hit in the foot and chest. Another boy was hit in the...
So the sheriff said that he was on the property. Sorry, yeah, he was on the property. Then he couldn't get on inside. He couldn't get inside. Now the chap's blown a window out and shot 2 children. Didn't manage to shoot any more pigging children, did he? Oh no, didn't climb through the window neither. Didn't start spraying the pigging room. And the sheriff said nothing about that. He said he couldn't get in, so he buggered off.
Both of those children were alert and talking when they were rushed to hospitals. The Tehama County Sheriff has also confirmed the shooter was shot and killed by deputies. Now, the motive remains unclear, but a neighbor of the gunman says the man was a known felon. We have not confirmed that, but if it's true, that would mean he would not be legally allowed to buy weapons.
No.
The neighbor also claims in recent days the suspect shot hundreds of rounds, as you mentioned, including large magazines. He went on to say that living next to the guy was hell. The FBI is also on scene.
And so it is that an ex-con, he's come out of Chokey there, and he has miraculously managed to get hold of these expensive weapons from somewhere, okay, and all these bullets. What did he do? Go down to the Dole office and say, "Oh, I'm a bit short on money. I need this a couple of handguns and an automatic rifle. How are you fixed? Can you give us a loan?" "Oh, no problem, young man. Here. How much do you want?" "Oh, I don't know. Let's say 10 grand. 10,000. Let's say $10,000. Okay. I can rob the bugger in rest if I need to. Okay. And I want some bullets as well. Yes, right. Okay, there you go. I'll just get you a chit for the money. Okay. And so then he goes off, and of course, he buys these things. He starts discharging hundreds of rounds, and then, of course, he's got to go back to the benefits office and ask for another loan to replace the bullets that he's discharged. Okay, and of course the sheriff needs to get his story picking right, because he says that this lockdown was a shield against him actually going in. He couldn't do anything, so again he buggered off. And now they're saying, the police are saying, that he didn't bugger off initially, that he shot out a window and he shot a couple of kids. Hey, by gum, and that he needed to go to Specsavers. Or of course he needed to get a better Labrador, because he only ate 2 pigging kids. He should have shot the pigging lot up, shouldn't he? He should have climbed through the pigging window.
Sure.
Trace Galler with that developing story out
Hello,
of Northern
Tracy.
California, and of course we'll have more as details come in throughout the afternoon.
Oh, so let's have a little bit of a
To
nos.
Tehama Elementary School, but that is where he ended up, though he was never inside the school building or on the property. Witnesses saw a classroom window blown out, and that's apparently where 2 children inside the room were shot and wounded. One boy was hit in the foot and chest. Another boy was hit in the arm. Both
Right, so there was one boy shot in the foot and in the chest, and the other was shot in the arm. Right, okay, in this story.
of those children were alert and talking when they were rushed to hospitals. The Tehama County Sheriff has also confirmed the shooter was shot and killed by deputies. Now, the motive remains unclear, but a neighbor of the gunman says the man was a known felon. We have not confirmed that, but if it's true, that would mean he would not be legally allowed to buy weapons. The neighbor also claims in recent days the suspect shot hundreds of rounds, as you mentioned, including large magazines. He went on to say that living next to the guy was hell. The FBI is also on scene. Chuck.
Trace Galler with that developing story out of Northern California, and of course we'll have more as details come in throughout the afternoon.
I think the makeup artist here overdid the face, didn't he? Look at it. Hey? Don't like wrinkles. Get rid of the wrinkles. Hey? Look at it. Get a picking trowel on that one. Now the thing about it is the fact that with all these fake stories, this of course is for gun control, to make guns appear obnoxious to the next generation that is rising up. Okay? To leave guns and weapons of all sorts in the hands of criminals, because the criminals that are doing this, okay? And it's criminal governments that are taking their own weapons for mass destruction of order and killing innocent people. And the only persons here, really, in this life, that are the victims are the innocent. The innocent suffer from the government, the innocent suffer from the criminals, and it's the innocent that are being targeted by the government to give up the guns. So the innocent can't win against these two in that sense. I mean, we do win, but not in the sense that they will ever capitulate to us. They will never concede that we are better than they are. They're the pigging criminals. Governments are the criminals. Okay. With all these stories, there is a beginning, there is a middle, and there is an end. Always. Always. And it's within a set, specific time limit. In reality, the real life that we live and touch, when criminals do this sort of thing, okay, they're not shot dead. Very rarely are they shot dead. There are occasions when they are, but it's very rarely they're shot dead. And it takes a lot of time to figure out who the criminal is. But in all these events, they know precisely from the outset who the criminal is. Everything about him. Everything about him. Down to the fact that within a very brief time, they've interviewed everybody who knew him. They've managed to get witnesses of the events. Very short time. Very, very short time. In fact, within, one would almost say minutes, because it's all staged. It's all staged and it's all piecemeal. So filming is of one part on one day. Next day, we'll take a bit of that part and a bit of that part, the following day maybe, or the day after, whatever. And they'll do it all on piecemeal and bring it all together. And it all folds as one story. So you have an end, a beginning with the news, and then an end with the news on the very same day. Everything perfect, sealed off. There was no forensics, we noticed, around that picking school, even though, I mean, apparently either two children did get shot. Okay, and there was no police, no fire engines, no ambulances, nothing. And as we say, it is clearly evident from the beginning of these things that once a person turns on the news, I don't have the news. Once a person turns on the news, they can have the beginning of an event and the end of an event on the very same day. Because it's a film, it's a story, it's got characters. And talking about characters, how are you, Miss Filth? Look at it, you've been playing in that bin again, haven't you? Yeah, we could pig in here, you dirty sod. Go on.